In Echoes of Madness, you are invited to step into the unsettling world of Mia, a rideshare driver whose ordinary night shift takes a chilling turn when she picks up a passenger who may or may not be the city's notorious killer. As Mia's suspicions intensify and her instincts scream danger, she is drawn into a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, where the line between friend and foe blurs into obscurity. Mia's fingers tapped nervously against the steering wheel as she navigated through the city's labyrinthine streets. The neon glow of streetlights cast eerie shadows across the deserted sidewalks, heightening the sense of isolation that permeated the night. When the ping of a new ride request echoed through the car, Mia's heart quickened with anticipation. She needed the extra cash, even if it meant picking up passengers at night. With a sense of resignation, Mia accepted the ride, her eyes scanning the darkened streets for any sign of her passenger. A figure emerged from the shadows, stepping into the dim pool of light cast by a flickering street lamp. Mia's breath caught in her throat as she recognized the silhouette of her next fare, Alex. As Alex settled into the passenger seat, Mia smiled politely, trying to ignore the prickling sensation of unease that crawled up her spine. His features were obscured by the shadows, but something about the way he moved, the subtle tension in his posture, that set her on edge. "Where to?" Mia's voice was steady, betraying none of the apprehension that churned in her gut. "Just downtown," Alex replied, his voice calm and composed. But there was something in how he avoided her gaze, elusive and unsettling, that Mia couldn't quite pinpoint. As they drove through the empty streets, Mia attempted to engage Alex in conversation, hoping to dispel the growing unease between them. But with each passing minute, her suspicions only grew stronger. She noticed Alex's hands twitching nervously in his lap, and his eyes darted furtively from side to side, as if searching for something. Or someone. Mia's pulse quickened as she tried to quell the rising fear that threatened to overwhelm her. "Everything okay?" Alex's voice cut through the tense silence, jolting Mia back to the present. "Fine," Mia replied, her voice strained. But even as she spoke, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. As they neared downtown, Mia's mind raced with terrifying possibilities. What if Alex wasn't who he claimed to be? What if he was the infamous killer who had been terrorizing the city for months? The thought sent a shiver down Mia's spine, and she fought to suppress a rising tide of panic. Brushing off her unease, Mia forced herself to focus on the task. She was just being paranoid, she told herself. There was no way Alex could be the killer. It was all just her overactive imagination playing tricks on her. But Mia's paranoia only intensified as they drove deeper into the city's heart. Every shadow seemed to loom menacingly, every alleyway a potential hiding place for danger. Mia's heart hammered in her chest, each beat a thunderous echo of her mounting anxiety. The darkness around her was suffocating and relentless as her thoughts spiraled into a vortex of fear. With each passing moment, the weight of dread grew heavier, threatening to crush her beneath its suffocating grip. She tried to push back the rising tide of panic, but it was futile. The fear had taken hold, consuming her from the inside out. The rhythmic hum of the engine filled the tense silence inside the sedan as Mia's eyes flickered nervously to the rearview mirror. Alex sat in the back seat, his form obscured by shadows, his presence a looming specter in the confined space of the car. Mia's heart hammered against her ribcage, her mind replaying the unsettling events of the past few minutes. Her gaze shifted to Alex's hands, clenched tightly in his lap. In the dim light, Mia noticed something that sent a shiver down her spine. A series of scratches marred the skin, faint but unmistakable. Panic bubbled up within her, threatening to engulf her in its suffocating grip. "What happened to your hands?" Mia's voice quivered, betraying the fear that churned in her gut. Alex's response was curt, dismissive. "Just a scratch," he muttered, his words tinged with irritation. But Mia couldn't shake the unease that settled like a heavy cloak around her shoulders. The scratches seemed too deliberate, too calculated to be dismissed as mere accidents, and coupled with Alex's increasingly erratic behavior, they only served to fuel her mounting paranoia. Her mind raced with terrifying possibilities, each more chilling than the last. What if Alex wasn't just a harmless passenger? What if he actually was the infamous serial killer who had been terrorizing the city for months? The thought sent a bolt of icy fear coursing through Mia's veins, paralyzing her with its sheer horror. Desperate to maintain control of the situation, Mia's hands tightened around the steering wheel, her knuckles turning white with tension. She looked furtively at Alex, studying his every move with growing suspicion. But his expression remained inscrutable, his features obscured by shadows, his intentions unclear. As they drove through the city's darkened streets, Mia's mind raced with frantic thoughts, each one more terrifying than the last. She needed concrete evidence to confirm her suspicions and validate the fear that gnawed at her insides. But as she racked her brain for answers, her thoughts turned in circles, leading her further down the rabbit hole of paranoia. The minutes stretched into an eternity as Mia grappled with the terrifying reality of her situation. She was alone, trapped in a car with a potential killer, with nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. As the darkness of the night closed in around her, she realized with a sickening certainty that her worst fears were about to become a horrifying reality. The city's labyrinthine streets stretched before Mia like a twisted maze, each shadowy alley and deserted corner a potential hiding place for danger. The dim glow of streetlights cast eerie shadows across the sedan's windshield, adding to the sense of isolation that permeated the night. Mia's knuckles whitened as she gripped the steering wheel, her pulse pounding in her ears like a drumbeat of dread. As they drove deeper into the city's heart, Mia's paranoia intensified with each passing moment. Every flickering street lamp, every darkened storefront, seemed to leer menacingly, casting doubt and suspicion on everything she thought she knew. She stole furtive glances at Alex in the rearview mirror, her heart pounding with fear. "Where did you say you were going?" Mia's voice trembled, betraying the anxiety that gnawed at her insides. Alex's response was cryptic and evasive. "Just keep driving," he said, his tone devoid of emotion. But Mia couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Her mind raced with terrifying possibilities, each more chilling than the last. What if Alex was leading her into a trap? What if he was planning to harm her, to silence her before she could uncover the truth? "You're him, aren't you?" Mia's words hung heavy in the air, the weight of accusation pressing down on them like a suffocating blanket. "You're the one they're all talking about. The killer." There was silence for a moment, a deafening void stretching between them like an unbridgeable chasm, and then, with a slow, deliberate movement, Alex turned to face her, his expression unreadable in the dim light of the car. "You're mistaken," he replied, calm and composed. But a hint of something beneath the surface, a flicker of unease, a tremor of uncertainty, sent a shiver down Mia's spine. "I saw the scratches on your hands," Mia pressed, her voice rising with each word. "I know it's you. You're the one who's been terrorizing this city, aren't you?" But Alex's denial was swift and unwavering, his gaze never faltering as he refuted Mia's accusations with practiced ease. "You're mistaken," he repeated, his words a cold, calculated dismissal that cut through the air like a knife. "What are you planning?" Mia's voice was barely a whisper, but the accusation hung heavy. Alex's expression remained impassive, his features obscured by shadows. But there was something in the way he watched her, something predatory and dangerous that sent a shiver down Mia's spine. "I don't know what you're talking about," Alex replied, calm and composed. But Mia wasn't convinced. She could see the truth lurking behind his mask of indifference, the darkness in the depths of his eyes. With a surge of adrenaline, Mia made her decision. Mia's heart pounded in her chest, and her mind raced with terrifying possibilities. Desperation clawed at her insides as she struggled to maintain control of the situation, to find a way out of the nightmare that had enveloped her. In a moment of blind panic, Mia's fingers fumbled with her phone, her hands shaking so violently that she could barely dial the numbers. But with a surge of adrenaline, she forced herself to focus, to push past the fear that threatened to paralyze her. The ringing phone seemed to echo through the car, each ring a deafening reminder of the danger that lurked just beyond the confines of the sedan. Mia's heart pounded harder in her chest with each passing second, a steady drumbeat of dread that drowned out all other sounds. Finally, a voice on the other end, a voice that was calm and reassuring, a lifeline in the darkness that threatened to consume her. 911, what's your emergency? Mia's voice trembled as she spoke, her words tumbling out in a rush of fear and desperation. I need help, she pleaded, her voice barely above a whisper. There's someone in my car, and I think he's dangerous. The operator's response was swift and efficient, a beacon of hope in the darkness that had descended upon Mia's world. Stay calm, the voice urged, a steady reassurance amid chaos. We're sending help right away. Stay on the line with me until they arrive. With relief flooding through her, Mia clung to the phone like a lifeline, her eyes fixed on Alex's shadowy form in the rearview mirror. She didn't know what would happen next, but she took solace in knowing that help was coming, that she wasn't alone in the darkness after all. A sudden light illuminated the darkness, cutting through the oppressive silence like a lightning bolt. The sound of approaching sirens filled the air, growing louder with each passing second until they seemed to echo off the walls of the surrounding buildings. As the flashing lights of the police car illuminated the scene, Mia's mind reeled with a dizzying sense of disorientation. The cacophony of sirens filled the air, drowning out the pounding of her heart as she watched in stunned silence as officers swarmed around the sedan, their weapons drawn and ready. Mia turned to face Alex, her eyes wide with disbelief. He vanished into the darkness without a trace, leaving nothing but an empty seat and a lingering sense of unease. As the officers approached, their expressions grim and determined, Mia felt a cold sweat break across her brow. Her words tumbled out in a rush, her voice cracking with emotion as she recounted the events that had led to this moment. But as she spoke, she couldn't shake the feeling that they didn't believe her. The officer in charge exchanged a meaningful glance with his partner before turning back to Mia, his expression unreadable. Ma'am, there was never anyone else in the car with you, he said, his voice firm but not unkind. Is there someone we can call for you? The words struck Mia like a physical blow, knocking the breath from her lungs as she struggled to understand the reality before her. She had imagined it all, the scratches on Alex's hands, the tension in his voice, and the fear gripping her heart with icy fingers. Thank you for joining us on another spine-tingling journey into the realms of the supernatural on Wicked Haunting Tales. If you relish the thrill of mysteries that send shivers down your spine and stories that linger in the shadows, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a wicked tale. Your support keeps the darkness alive. Until next time, brace yourself for more chilling tales that will leave you questioning reality. Stay haunted and stay wicked.